I've been gone for quite some time, and I thanked all the MVLs for when I would tweet something, I would get at least 2 or 3 replies saying, "Hey, get off of Twitter. You're on vacation. Just chill." And I really do appreciate that. I was like, "Man, you guys are keeping me honest." So, Jordan, I need your help. I need you to catch me up to speed. What happened while I was gone?
There was a lot that happened, and we can talk about rookies here maybe on the tail end of this podcast. But the first big thing, the first ball that dropped was the schedule release. And
Hmm.
I did an article, I talked about it with Mark Van Sickle that night. Shout out to Mark for doing 2 podcasts while you were gone. That was fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
I predicted the Chiefs would go 14-3, and that constitutes them losing week 18 because they're resting. So, really, only 2 major losses throughout the season. I think that opening slate is going to be pretty brutal, but if they can get through that, then they should be fine. Ironically, though, none of the losses I gave them are in that opening 5 week slate. So I guess it's kind of a
Hmm.
double edged sword. They're going to be a 13, 14 win team, I think. Like the absolute floor, I think, would be maybe 12-5. And then the ceiling, obviously, they could win all of them. So I think that the schedule fell pretty favorably for them. It's not a bad schedule by any means. And they're going to get tested early, but that should help them later on.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of looking at there when I saw the schedule dropped. Weeks 1, 2, and 3, absolute gauntlet of Browns will be good, Ravens will be good, all as they always are. In the Chargers, week 3, that's going to be tough. They do get a little bit of break in week 4 when they have the Eagles, I believe it is, and then week 5 is the Bills. Like, that's a tough little 5 game stretch right there. So I like how the schedule laid out, as you mentioned. I think that it is actually pretty favorable for the Chiefs, and that Packers game coming later in the season will be fun. Who knows where Aaron Rodgers is going to end up? It looks like they have it kind of set up to where if it's the Broncos where he ends up, we'll see a little bit of that action too. But looking at the schedule here, the Eagles is always going to be that's in Philadelphia. Is that Andy Reid's first time back in Philadelphia? I haven't dug much into that one.
I believe it is. And I
Okay.
think they maybe came to Kansas City one year. I don't
Hmm.
know the rotating mathematical you have to do this every so many years or whatever, but I believe it's the first time that he's been back there.
It would have been like what 8 years ago since it's an NFC team that the something like that. So yeah, that's about right. But the Chiefs get the Steelers at a good time. Week 16, Big Ben will already have tape on his ankles and ice on his shoulder, and he'll be in that walking boot probably already. So that's a good time to get those Pittsburgh Steelers. The Bengals game, I kind of got that one circled in week 17. That's going to be a good one. I think the Bengals will be kind of sneaky good this year, especially if Joe Burrow's ready to go. There's a tweet from Adam Schefter saying he should be go week 1, should be ready to go week 1. I'm excited for that matchup. That one will be fun. Cowboys Chiefs is always going to be a good one. That's just before the bye week in week 12. It's a good week. I like the week 12 bye week. It's a little later than normal, but I think week 12 is a solid bye.
Yeah, and for a team like the Chiefs, where you never know, I guess this is the case with any NFL team about you don't know when injuries are going to hit and stuff like that. But especially for a team that has goals and aspirations and very well could make a deep playoff run and potentially get to the Super Bowl and win one, they have that expectation. And I guess every team does heading into the year. But realistically, like a team like Denver or Cincinnati, a team like Cincinnati week 17, they're not going to be hunting for a Super Bowl. They're not going to be hunting, I
Right.
don't think, for a playoff spot. Granted, I do think they're going to be a very competitive bad team. Like they could go 6-11 and really be more like a 8-9 team or something like that. They're going to be a fun team to watch. But the Chiefs having that late bye week does help them out for sure. I think, in that if they're struggling with some injuries, they can kind of come back and
Hmm.
regroup. And then Andy Reid coming off the bye week, I believe it's Denver right after that.
Yes.
That'll be fun. That
Yeah.
will be fun. That's all I'm going to say about that one.
I agree with you. So I knew that one was going to come out on Wednesday when I left, and that had to be it, right? Were you kind of struggling for content there for a little bit? That was all the content that you got, right?
Yeah, well, then the Chiefs traded for Mike Hughes, which was also
Oh,
fun. I was sitting. Did you miss that one?
uh-huh.
Yeah, I think you were under a rock or something. Oh, you
Yeah,
were at Disney World. That's what happened. Yeah.
yeah.
So about that, I remember your tweet, man. It was so funny. You tweeted something along the lines of like, I guess I need to leave for the Chiefs to like do something or whatever. And I
Hmm.
quote tweeted and said, guess I'm doing it now. Like just have fun, stay there forever. But I
Yeah.
was sitting in the Taco Bell parking lot, and I guess I didn't really have to share that, but it kind of ties into my story. So hear me out. The Taco Bell I go to, the service never ever works for me.
Hmm.
And it's like literally a block radius to where it doesn't work, because I'll leave the drive through, I'll get back on the road and it'll work fine. I don't know if it's like the signals interfering with their POS system and their radio frequency. What the heck is going on? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I got the notification that the Vikings were trading him to the Chiefs. Then I kept trying to get on Twitter and I couldn't load anything. So I couldn't tweet, I couldn't get messages, I couldn't do anything. Raced home, and I was supposed to record with I believe it was Connor that
Hmm.
evening. Yeah, it was. And we chatted about it. Man, you're basically swapping a late day 3 pick for a late day 3 pick. You're getting a guy who, if everything pans out, could compete for some reps at slot corner. He has the pedigree. He has the former first round pick. Like, it's a Brett Veach special, I think.
Yeah, and when you look at it, this cornerback room needed depth, and they needed bodies. They needed guys who um, could contribute, and I think that Mike Hughes is that. And I don't expect him to be an Xavier Rhodes type reclamation project, right? And I don't think that. I don't see that kind of happening. I don't think we should count the chickens before they hatch. I think that we should take this one a little slow. I saw people on Twitter kind of getting a little excited about, oh, he's going to be the next great cornerback ever. Who needs Brashad Breeland? Well, the Chiefs still need Brashad Breeland, actually. I don't think that this shuts the door on Brashad coming back at all. In fact, I think this should make Brashad want to come back, right? Having more depth to that room is going to be pretty crucial, pretty important. I don't hate the move. I mean, I think you nailed it on the head, Jordan. You get a 6th round pick or you get a 7th round pick for a 6th round pick, something like that. It's a late
Mm-hmm.
round pick, regardless. You just basically swapping a pick for a player and a pick. So I think it's a low risk, high reward type move for the Chiefs. And I like it, man. I think that they needed some depth, they needed some players, and they got them. So with that news, that was probably it, right? And I know this is kind of the dry end of the season. Getting a trade at this point in the year is kind of rare. You don't see that a whole lot, a trade at this time. So I'm glad that you had something else to talk about. But I'm sure those last couple episodes were a little dry. You had to kind of scrape the bottom of the barrel per se.
Sure. And I wanted to touch on DeAndre Baker a little bit, because the same camp on Chiefs Twitter that said,
It's true.
oh, Mike Hughes is going to start at not only slot corner, he's going to be the boundary cornerback for the Chiefs. I was like, okay, well, guys, he's primarily a slot corner, first of all. Second of all, they also said DeAndre Baker could start on the boundary. Like, guys, come on. Like, DeAndre Baker broke his leg, and he hadn't been playing before that. I just
Yeah.
don't know. Rashad Fenton, why do people hate Rashad Fenton so much or don't have any is it because he's a boring player who just does his job and goes home? Like, DeAndre Baker, former first round pick, I get it. He has the talent, he has the pedigree, he has the measurables, all that stuff. He looked good in the however much he played. It wasn't a lot at all. And then Mike Hughes, he has the pedigree, he has the talent, he has the measurables, he has the athletic profile. Sure, he has the physicality. He's good at getting into run fits, which is what Spags values in his slot cornerbacks. That's all fine and dandy. But personally, I'm in the I'll believe it when I see it kind of camp. And that's not a bad thing. I'm trying not to be a pessimist. I'm trying to be a realist here and say the Chiefs have Charvarius Ward, who is a somewhat capable boundary corner. They have L'Jarius Sneed, who, as much as I love him, hasn't completely proven himself yet. I mean, he's played like 8 games so far. Very good slot corner in that sample size, capable boundary corner in that sample size. The ceiling is much higher on the boundary, I think, because the value of that lockdown perimeter cornerback, blah, blah, blah. Then you have Rashad Fenton, who we've talked about him. We've gushed over Rashad Fenton several times. He is a solid
Mm-hmm.
player who I think could be an average slot corner, which is fine. You also have Tyrann Mathieu, where if you needed Daniel Sorensen to play a bigger third safety role, I don't know if the trade off is worth it. You can put Mathieu in the slot. He's done it before. He does really well there. Juan Thornhill looks like Juan Thornhill again. But overall, like you said, it can't hurt. And just let's temper our expectations as a whole, but also recognize that there's some good value to be had there potentially.
Yeah, and I think Potential is a good word to use for this, right? Potentially, this secondary could be very salty if both, Mike Hughes and DeAndre Baker pan out. Those are guys that are going to be probably. I can't think what Hughes would be. He'd be a restricted free agent, I believe, because he didn't. I don't know how we leave that stuff to Connor to figure out. Maybe we'll try to figure that out later. What he would be at that time. I don't know how much years he has left on his deal or anything like that either. But there's a lot going on with trades that I don't really understand. But that secondary, man, there's can't be anything going on there, right? I think that secondary is super solid. There's nothing, no trouble in that paradise, right?
There is a little mini thing that just happened in passing, like not even worth. No.
Hmm.
In all reality, in all seriousness, Tyrann Mathieu tweeted that he probably wouldn't get a contract extension, and Joshua Briscoe did a fantastic story, and I like the way he does it. It's textbook.
Yeah.
Here's what happened, clear divide. Here's what I think. Here's my speculation. Instead of here's my speculation. Oh, by the way, this is what happened. Oh, and I'm gonna do one paragraph about what happened and call it a day. Like he
Yeah.
clearly, distinctually breaks everything down, which is fantastic. It was a great article. It was quick. Josh has like that on 2K, you get the quick draw badge or
Yeah.
whatever they call it. Josh is his platinum. Like he is the best, one of the best at doing that, which is fantastic. And Mathieu, I talked to, I think it was Mark and Connor about this, or maybe just Connor.
Hmm.
Personally, I'm not too worried about that. I think that it reminds me of the Chris Jones situation a bit, in which the Chiefs are obviously going to come out with a resolution to this situation. But I think it was I can't remember who replied to my tweet, and I've brought this up like 3 days in a row, so I wish I could. But they said maybe the Chiefs want to build like some decline into the back end of the deal, which makes sense. He's going to be 30 years old when it kicks in, stuff like that. So there's just a lot to consider. But he did end up tweeting that, which everyone ran with that on Twitter, of course.
Shout out my guy Josh. Well, Joshua Briscoe for getting that story out and doing it very quickly. Yes, I got that Twitter notification. I don't remember what park I was at, but I was at the Disney park and I actually saw the Twitter notification before like I saw anything else about it on Twitter. So like I saw Josh's story about it and I was like, oh, this like happened. Shout out to Austin, the real bird lawyer over there for getting that screenshot out and getting it. And shout out my guy Josh. What I was going to say and Show Me Football for getting that response there from Tyrann Mathieu, which drew it all off. I've actually been on his podcast to Show Me Football and on the YouTube channel as well. So yeah, I thought that that was weird. But when you said Tyrann Mathieu tweeted, that didn't shock me at all, right? Tyrann Mathieu likes to tweet a lot. That's what Tyrann Mathieu's MO is, being on Twitter, interacting with the fans. He's always on Twitter talking to people. But when he tweets that he's probably not going to get a contract extension, it makes me think that this is strategic. It makes me think that this is something that he knew he was going to do, not just something that was a heat of the moment rash thing. And we all have heat of the moment rash things, you know. We all tweet things, tweet something out and say, "Oh, probably isn't as funny as I thought it was going to be," then delete it. You know, we all have those things. But this could have been a heat of the moment thing, but I really think that this was probably strategic. He probably left it up there longer than he was going to make sure people screen capped it, make sure that tweet got sent around, and make sure that he's got a little bit of leverage come negotiating time. And you're right. I think that the back end of the deal probably is something the Chiefs are trying to work in, as you mentioned, his age. And I thought the way that he like worded the whole tweet was weird too. Like, been in this situation before, all good. Um, Fine. I don't have anything wrong with Tyrann Mathieu. I've never said anything bad about that man in my life, but for some reason, he thinks that I am his biggest hater on Twitter. For some reason, I don't know why. I don't know why, but he beefs with me on Twitter. But it's all good. I have much respect for Mr. Mathieu. I've never said anything bad about the guy. I think he's a phenomenal football player and would love for him to finish his career in Kansas City. All that being said, I think this was a strategic move, and I think he knows what he's doing.
I'm with you. I think that he's just doing his thing. And
Yeah.
whether someone told him to or he did it himself, he's a smart guy. The Chiefs are smart people. They will figure it out. My panic concern level is at like 5%. Like, it's nowhere near a bad thing. But for people listening at home, Tucker tweeted out like a really well-written story about Tyrann Mathieu and the Chiefs defense. And I guess Tyrann thought it was like a slight at him. So he replied to it like thinking it was a joke and said like, this stuff is funny or whatever. Then deleted it once he realized that it wasn't a slight. Then one day he tweeted and said that people were like begging for clout and stuff. And I quote tweeted it with a screenshot of Tucker asking people to subscribe to the YouTube channel, and Tyrann liked it. And of course it was Tucker. So Tyrann, I don't know if you're listening to this podcast, but if you are, Tucker is a very big appreciator of your work. Yes. And there's no beef that exists.
That will do it for today's podcast preview. If you enjoyed the preview, make sure to check out the full show out on your favorite podcast provider. Don't know how to find it? Go to smarturl.it/roughing. Got a splash page. You can find your favorite provider there and find the show there, or go into the search bar of your favorite show, type in Roughing the Kicker. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like. It really helps us out. If you enjoy the channel and the podcast as a whole, subscribe and obviously get that notification bell on, because you don't want to miss any more podcast previews. We'll be back with another video soon. So until then, I'll talk to you next time.